over here yet. Let's see. There we go. Start recording. Leslie's recording the call.
Okay.
Okay. As soon as we do it, we're like, what are we doing?
It recorded like,
Okay, at some point, people, we're gonna get really good at this whole introduction thing. You'll even have like a roll in. We'll get real fancy. But for now, we're back.
Yay!
And we are continuing our conversation on anxiety.
Yes, we are.
And this week we are gonna hear Leslie's story on anxiety.
Yeah.
So, Leslie, do you want to start by sharing a little bit about your life?
So, I actually grew up in like a really stable home, close to all my cousins on both sides, close to my grandparents on both sides. I didn't have like any of those like trauma markers that would make people go like, "Oh, that's why you have it."
Yeah.
And so we'll fast forward really far. This last fall, springish, I don't remember. I think it was last fall. Into summer, early fall, I was referred to go see a brain doctor, not a neurologist, but like someone who studies the brain to get an ADHD diagnosis, to get diagnosed for ADHD instead of going to a doctor, which if you've ever gotten diagnosed from your PCP, that's fine. But they ask you the same 5 questions, and my husband and kid answer yes to them, and he is not ADHD. He's not neurodiverse. He's neurotypical. But this woman officially diagnosed with GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder. So when I was younger, we'll go back now, we knew I had anxiety, but we thought it was like school or like situations I was in, but it was just like an underlying issue that I've always had. So there's not like one thing that like triggered it. It's just always been like this loop in the back of my head where it's like, what if this happens? Or what if this happens? Or like looming thoughts or fear of people or disappointing people. Now it kind of manifests in like obsessive thoughts of like, I don't know if you heard in between our calls, me asking the kids how they were feeling. It's like a pretty perpetual, like, how are you feeling? Does your head hurt? Does your stomach hurt? Does your throat hurt? Like those kinds of things. And when I start in on that cycle, it'll like, for days, I'll be like obsessed with checking on them. And then I'll have to break myself out because I'll get so keyed up. So I've had anxiety not my whole life, but a very large amount of my existence has been anxious. Yeah. Which I look back and sometimes I'm like, why me? And it's kind of like what we were just talking about. It's like, why me? Well, it is you. So what are you gonna do with it? And I'm choosing at this point to speak like into it and like walk in it and just own it and be able to find holistic ways and homeopathic. And like, I went to the doctor today and was like, something's not right. Like, I'm overwhelmed. I said, I'm not depressed. I'm not suicidal. I said, but I am not top notch.
Right.
And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm okay with getting on medication. Because it's like, it's not going to devalue me. Nope. It's not going to change who I am. It's going to help my chemical deficiency that's causing this. So yeah. we talked about it for a minute, and he leaned more towards my thyroid, which is a big part of my anxieties. I have a thyroid disease. So I have something called Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. Yeah. So when I say I have a good childhood, like at 11 years old, my mom went to my doctor and was like, something is wrong with my kid. Like, she's outside all the time. She's in the sun. She's at sporting events. Like, and she weighs 115 pounds. She's in the 6th grade. Like, something is wrong with her.
Yeah.
Find it. And I remember my dad, grown man, had to sit on me and like hold my arm like straight, and 2 nurses had to hold me down with my dad sitting on me just to draw blood, just to get the diagnosis. Like,
Wow.
it was a, like, circus to get me to get blood work done, because
Wow.
I like my blood. I want to keep it.
I want that in my body.
Yeah, no, you cannot have that. But it's like, I look back now and it's like, I probably had anxiety.
Yeah.
About what were they doing? Why were they doing that? You know, what's wrong with me? So it's like, there are pieces of my,
comfortable.
yeah, and it was like, I didn't know, and they didn't know, and they didn't want to freak me out. And so, you know, there are parts of my childhood that were not good, but I think that's just part of the human existence. Like, no one's going to have their greatest childhood ever, and it's just not going to happen. And if it does, that's amazing for you. Congratulations on being a prince, and
Right.
like, good
But
for
I mean,
you.
according to Harry, that's not a great life either.
Yeah, true. So it's like, there are parts of it that weren't great, but my parents were very, like, adamant, and they advocated a lot of things for us. And so at 11, I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and most women get diagnosed, and most women don't get diagnosed till they've had either fertility issues, trouble after pregnancy, or in their 40s before menopause.
Yep.
And I knew at 11 years old that I was going to have this for the rest of my life. So it's given me time to, like, study it and learn it. And so when my body starts to feel out of whack, I can know, like, this is and I told my husband this morning, like, it's probably my thyroid, because over time my body has attacked my thyroid. I don't know if you know anything about it, but it's like,
I know a little. My mom has it.
So it's an autoimmune. So it's like, my body thinks that my thyroid, specifically my thyroid, is like a foreign invader, and it has since I was born, and it's been attacking it. Most women don't find out till infertility issues or pregnancy, because trauma can spurn on autoimmune diseases. It can, like, engage them, I guess.
It's usually, I think it's in your genetics, but the trauma can, like, activate it.
Yes. And so, and birth is a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of if it's a home birth or
Like, you're expelling a human body out of your body.
Yeah, it's really, like, people don't realize that it's like, when you say it's traumatic, it's not like number 5, that was traumatic in its own entity, but 1 through 5 all equal trauma on your body.
On your body, yeah.
So it's like, birth is traumatic. And I told someone that recently, and they're like, no, it was good. And I'm like, no, birth is literally traumatic. Like, oh.
Yeah.
So my anxiety looks weird. Like, 2 Decembers ago, I had a hysterectomy because I was having, like, horrible cycles, and someone asked me, would you do it again? And I was like, in a heartbeat. Even though I lost 2 liters of blood at home, I bled out a very large amount of blood. We had to call 911, and sorry, I'm being... Okay, can you go play now, please? I'm recording. They're in here. They know this story. So we drove from Weatherford to Waxahachie to have the surgery, because that's where I was established with this doctor. Anyways, this is a long story. We drove from Waxahachie to Weatherford, and I bled out in the car, and got home, and I just kept bleeding. And it happened at the hospital, and they said it's normal, so they sent me home. In hindsight, I wish I would have. Yeah, I wish I would have been like, no, I'm staying. But it's like, my anxiety. A lot of people have told me, like, I would never have that surgery again, knowing what you went through. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't scare me, because I survived it. Like, that's the funny thing about my anxiety, is it's not like, now I can never do this thing. It's like, are my kids gonna have an ear infection if they stay in the bath too long? Like, those are my like, unraveling thoughts. And so it's like this low drone in the background. Like, it's really weird, and there are things that make it worse, and there are things that are, like, I've worked through. So now I look back and I'm like, wow, that was was dumb. That was a dumb one.
Yeah.
But you have to work through it before you can look back at it.
And say it's dumb. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So.
It's like our first episode, we were talking about like our younger selves. Like, why was I scared of that?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you go through it. That you can look back and go, well, that was foolish. Like,
yeah. Well, like, there were pieces of my childhood that, like, my brother and I, we were close, but like we had a sibling rivalry. Like, it just was naturally, we're 15 months apart. Like, his friends were my friends and my friends were his friends, and it was this like we were there for each other, but we also were like, don't mess with my stuff kind of thing.
Yep.
And so like siblings do, they say things. Well, I held on to some of the stuff he said, and I carried it with me well into adulthood. And it's like, I had to process, like, I am still letting something that a 10-year-old little boy told me because he was mad at me.
Yep.
And it's like, I had to look at it and be like, okay. You're like, one of the things he said was, like, none of my cousins liked me. And it's like, well, I'm pretty sure I said that to him too. So it's not like he was being mean. It was just like this thing that it stuck to me. Yep. And I've like had to talk to my cousins and like work through this whole thing of like, you guys actually like me? And they're like, yes, we love you. Like, what is your problem? I'm like, I thought you didn't like me. So I always leave earlier. I don't come to things because I don't want to be a burden to you. And they're like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because I believed a 10-year-old. As a 30-year-old, I was still believing a 10-year-old. And it's like, it created this like anxiety to like be with my own family who are blind. Like, they will not blindly, like they will fiercely support their family. Like, they are just those kinds of people who are like, what are you doing? We're so proud of you. It's like, you don't even know what I'm doing. We're so proud of you because you're doing it. So it's funny to look back. It's like, wow, okay, I'm glad I had those conversations because I needed them, but what on earth? Like, I was so afraid of their opinion of me that I believed like this 10-year-old, which I was only 11 when he said it, but it's like, as a 30-year-old, I was still believing what 10-year-old brother said to me. It's like, oh my gosh. And they probably didn't like me because I was probably being a jerk that day. It's like,
right.
It's just how it works. Like, you know, like we talked, I don't like you, but I love you. Mm-hmm. Like, my aunt says, I love you, but. And my husband's like, that's so rude. I'm like, it's not rude at all. It's very genuine. Like, I love you, but what you're doing is annoying to me. Yep. And so he had to learn the genuine part of that before he could understand that when I say I love you, what? It's like, no, I really do love you, but you're chewing your gum loudly and I'm going to punch you in the face.
I'm going to throat punch you if you don't get that sound to stop.
Spit your gum out, buddy. I actually made him spit his gum out on a hike the other day because I do get anxious, but I enjoy hikes. So I get jumpy. Like, and in certain situations, it's a different response. Yeah. Like, some, I get a headache where it's like, it's just a literal just droning headache where it's like, just a little bit naggy. Not going to stop me from doing something, but it's like a reminder, like, hey, you're nervous about this. In other situations, I change my outfit 57 times before I leave, and then I get like, I don't know if you can see it, but like my cheeks feel like they're on fire. Like, my cheeks feel like I'm burning them because I'm nervous. So it's like this like blood pressure response. Yeah. And on hikes, I enjoy it, but I get kind of like, don't do that. Like, and my intrusive thoughts are like, this cliff could fall. And it's like, well, we're 50 feet from the edge, but 70 feet of the cliff could fall and you guys could fall to your demise. It's like, well, crap. We shouldn't even be up here. But I have to like remind myself that's very unlikely. I knew they were going to do that. I'm trying to close the door with a pillow. So he was chewing his gum and he pops bubbles inwards. So they're really loud. And I kept like jumping and I finally was like, I did not say it very kindly. I was like, you need to spit your freaking gum out. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. And it's really like, you're ruining the hike for me. Which I look back now, I'm like, well, that was really crummy. But it's like, I, in that moment, couldn't handle one more thing. on my brain. So can you hear them in the background?
I can hear them a little bit, yeah.
Let me step away for 1 second. Oh. Hey, quietly play, please, not loudly play. Like I said play Old Maid or Matt.
So I'm not sure she's gonna be able to like cut this. And if it's a podcast, it's quiet. Oh, hey, she's back. I'm like talking, like if this is a podcast and they're not watching on YouTube and we don't know how to like condense it.
Thank you. They're still being loud, and they're gonna be loud, because I asked them to play a game quietly. So obviously, we're gonna roughhouse and grapple, and it is what it is. And some days, some days my anxiety will be like I know myself, and I'll be like, no one's gonna get anything from my interview, and no one's gonna be able to relate to me, and it's gonna be very selfish, like we talked in the first episode. It's very like an entitled, self-serving anxiety, and it's like I think that makes it more relatable.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, you asked your kid to do one specific thing and they're not.
That's just life.
Hey, I 100% need you to be obedient because I am recording an actual episode and you are screaming and you're being rude. And I'm going to have to edit. Yes, I'm recording now. That's why I said, please play a quiet game. I have to edit all this out. If you are sick, then you may come and run me and tell me you are sick. If you are hiding from your brother, you need to go out there and you need to play Old Maid or Memory. I love you very much. Please be helpful. Are you recording right now? She goes, Papa, we have to be quiet. She has to delete everything.
If this is not a true reflection of motherhood and moms who are trying their hardest to like do something else with their lives, like not that motherhood isn't enough, like
no, but like I feel like we are given the gift to have conversation with each other and encourage people who are in a spot that we've come out of.
Yep.
Just like that author or that writer that you were just reading the poem for, it's like she's come out of something.
Yeah.
And she wrote an incredible piece that like spoke life to you and then to me and then hopefully to whoever listens. It's like she might be drowning in laundry like the rest of us, but she used her gifts to encourage people.
That's what this is, and I think people that this is meant for is gonna understand the motherhood chaos in the background and be like, "Oh, it happens at their house too."
Yes, yes, it does, and man, it happens more.
1 or 5.
Yeah, yes, it happens. 1 or 5, yeah, it's true. Or 6. I have a friend who has 6 kids. My Fort Worth version of you. I think I told you about her. They have started attending our church, and so I saw the twins. Like the dad brought 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. No, 5 of them.
Yep.
So the oldest stayed home because he didn't feel super good, and then my friend Jessica stayed home because she had the same kind of like gunky sore throat. And so the twins are 3. I think maybe they're 4. I don't remember, but they were like so mad at each other on Sunday. And I was standing there talking to him, and I could just see one of them like bring his fist back to his brother, and the other brother took his leg back like as hard as he can. And I'm like, oh, the Bobs are about to fight. And the dad was like, don't do it. And they're like, okay. And then when he looked away, they both were like, and like kicking each other. And I was like, when I first met them, I would have never believed that they had kids who fought. And now they have kids who like fight in church in their suits. Like they were in suits, I think.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But it's like this, I don't know how to explain that. It's like we have this unrealistic expectation that we put on ourselves, that we put on other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so and we're like, it's like this hope that they don't meet that expectation.
Yeah.
It's like, please don't have it all together. Please don't have perfect children. Please have kids who fight in the background. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you do? Okay. I feel less inadequate.
It's definitely a less than adequate. There's this like camaraderie that comes out.
Yes. Commiseration.
Yes, because like whenever I've had friends in the past or people in the past be like, either I don't know how you do it, or you must have it all together, and I'm like, clearly haven't been around very much, or like what do you expect,
Yeah.
or the friends who do, like I've had people be like, this was an older, like she has kids my age, and she came over, and I only had like 3 at the time, and my oldest, I think, had his underwear on and was running outside in just underwear. He was like 4 at the time. But he had it on backwards because the pictures are on the butt, and he wants to see whatever superhero or
That's
character.
amazing.
And she was like, I would have been horrified if my kids had done that. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, she's like, I'm just so proud of you that like you just don't care. And I'm like,
Oh,
thank you.
it's like a backhanded compliment.
I was like, maybe you just care too much and you're jealous of the fact that I don't let those things bother me at a younger age.
I think that is like hammer, meat, nail. Like,
Yeah.
we care too much about things. Like, we've put this emphasis on something creating like a value. And so then we give ourselves anxiety or stress or whatever. So it's very weird, like being a mom and having anxiety and trying to maneuver your own anxiety. And like, I've given Jason anxiety. Like, and that goes back to what you were saying. Like, I didn't break my kid.
No.
Like, but it feels like that because he has almost all the same anxiety. And he responds very similarly.
Like, but the cool thing is you have the gift of being able to guide him through it.
And it's like it's like a gift in that, but also in the Lord being like, hey, look at how it looks.
Yeah.
Look at what you're struggling with. And it's like, oh, okay. Like that, hey, that's not a real threat to us.
Yeah.
Like, and here's the beautiful thing. If people don't like us, what a gift for us to learn early and to be able to move on and find people who do like us.
Yep.
Because that's one of both of us, we get anxious when we go into like social events. And not like social anxiety, but it's like, because we can socialize, but it's this like, are they going to really like me type thing. And I was watching a reel a couple weeks ago, and it was Dane Cook, and he's talking about how he thinks that social anxiety and excitement is like a fine line between the two. So he's like, could you imagine going into something you're excited about and being like, I'm going to freaking win at this. Like, I'm going to do so amazing. He's like, no, because your body naturally says like, be fearful. And I'm like, dang, like, wow, it could actually be that I'm just super excited about going to. And when I've started walking into things where it's like, I'm really excited to be here and I'm gonna own being excited, I feel less anxious.
For sure. And the thing is, fear and excitement physiologically are very similar in our bodies.
That's, yeah, he talks about like, I mean, it's Dane Cook, and so it's vulgar and like real, not as well spoken as you, but
not super scientific, but like there is, like, scientists have proven like the neurons that are firing are very like similar. And so when you choose to look at it from a different like perspective, or you put that other lens on of like, okay, I can say that I'm fearful, or I can say this is exhilarating.
yes,
And going at it that way, and that's why people love like roller coasters. Because
adrenaline
it
junkies.
teeters on that like,
Yeah.
holy crap, I'm about to die, and this is the coolest feeling ever.
Yes. Where
And
it's like, yeah, I do think that I mean, there's science in that. Is my screen frozen?
It's not frozen on my end now.
Okay, 100% in my little thumbnail, and I'm just staring at myself. I'm like, please move. Because it's a dumb face, and I'm nervous that people are going to stare at my dumb face. Like, that's...
It's a beautiful face.
Well, the one I'm looking at is a real dumbfounded. And that's okay. That's...
No such thing. No such thing.
Is how, and even if it is, it's okay. Who cares? But there's that, like, Jason, he rode a roller coaster recently. He's like, it was so scary, but it was so amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's a real feeling of like, this is horrifying. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? And you get off and you're like, that was amazing.
I want to do it again. And then you get
Yes.
back on, you're like, crap, what am I doing?
Yes.
Like
Well, and I was just thinking, that's how I feel in certain social situations. Like, I leave and I'm like, that was so good for me. Like, that was exactly what my heart needed, or that was exactly where we needed to be. And then I leave, and about 30, 45 minutes later, I'm like, oh no, did I say the wrong thing? Did I misspeak? Was I rude? Like, we're slowly becoming like very close friends. She's Baptist. Her dad's a Baptist preacher. Pastor. I don't know what they call them there. They're Baptist.
But
yeah. And so
usually her brother, like growing up Baptist, it was Brother Dennis was our preacher, pastor.
Yeah. So, and they don't call him like father. That's Catholic. I know that one. But her dad's a Baptist preacher, and so we were talking, and I left when I left her house later on that night. I was like, all I did was talk about Baptists. And I like texted her, I was like, I'm so sorry if I was rude about Baptists. And she's like, literally not even at all. I was like, and she was like, no, it is fine. Like, I don't know why you would think that you were rude about. I'm like, okay. Whew. But I like overthought it. It was an amazing day. We spent like 7 hours together. And then I got home and was like, I ruined it. Like, there it is.
See, but what I love about that situation is you reach out to her and you're like, hey, I may have blown something.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. And they're able to, like, one, alleviate your fear. And then if it had been something, y'all could have talked about it then.
Yes. And I think,
will we lock ourselves in the fear?
Yes.
It just festers.
It really does. And it becomes like overthinking, and it becomes this like self-inflicted wound. And so, I had a friend recently tell me, like, quit overthinking. So he was like, nobody's thinking about what you're saying that much. And I was like, wow, thank you for the insight. He's like, it's true. He's like, I'm not trying to be rude. He's like, no one is thinking about what you're saying that much, and you're giving yourself anxiety because you're thinking that everything you say holds way more value than it does. Yeah. And that was, I mean, I am exposed to very rude men, apparently, who love me and want to see me grow. Because it's like, Jeff has said stuff like that. My friend that, I'm not going to call him out yet. Maybe one day. But it's like, it's true. And maybe it wasn't like him, but the Lord speaking through him, like, hey, no, you're putting weight on your words that don't exist.
Yeah.
Like, what you say is valuable, but you're making them weigh like 100 pounds when really it's like 2.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. That like takes all the pressure.
It does take
to be this like high performer. Like, I literally could come unraveled and go scream at my kids when this is done, because they are still being loud.
It's really okay.
But it's like, who cares? Like, it's not going to change how this goes. It's not going to change this conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hurt that relationship, because they're playing right now.
If they're playing together and it's not them fighting, that's a win.
They're so loud. Just naturally, they're just loud.
Oh, today when I was making dinner, and dinner is like the worst time for me. They had a show going. I used to have headphones that I could like listen to a book to like.
Yeah.
But my headphones may have gone through the washer.
Oh, that's exciting.
They like have like a zzz, like they still work, but they have like an underlying hum. That's annoying. So I have
Much like my anxiety.
yeah, exactly. But like, and then one was playing with the dog, and it was
Um,
like, if one more sound happens,
yep.
I
Auditory
might lose
overload.
my loving mind.
Yep.
But trying like if they're having fun and they're not like
I
stressed out.
know. It's so hard because it's like,
Oh
especially
yeah,
for people who like are in an anxious like high, like dinner's not like a great window for me either because it's like that's the time when everyone's getting kind of towards the end of the day. So feelings are a little bit more raw. We know that the fun is ending.
yep,
Like, and it's just like a weird time frame for us as well. And so it's this like auditory overload that like just brings it out, and then it's like I can't come back. A lot of times I
yep,
have to like, and it's a bummer because it's like I have to lose my crap to be able to just like almost like purge it and then be
yep.
able to. But then you have to go apologize and you have to like, I'm really sorry I yelled at you for having a fun time with the dog. Or
Right,
it's like,
exactly. I'm sorry you were being a child and mom decided to lose her ever loving mind.
yeah, I'm sorry about that.
We're gonna work on that. I'm gonna work
Yes,
on that.
yeah, and I think that that's just not just motherhood, but all of life. Like
Yeah,
it's this weird, like taking one extra second to like evaluate what is like, yes, they are wrong for not being respectful of what they were asked, what they've been asked to do. I will have a conversation with them, but they also are getting along, having fun. And so it's like having to take a step back and evaluate like what are they actually doing wrong
yeah,
instead of what is pissing me off or what's
yeah,
making me anxious or what's hurting my feelings. It's like this weird thing where when we are able to step outside of the immediate situation, which I'm not good at. Like I can do it sometimes, but I'm not always
yeah,
good at stepping outside of my own immediate circle and realizing like what is like what is actually happening, what is happening inside my brain to make me feel this way.
yeah,
Um, so it's I think when we are give ourselves a little bit more time and room to learn that skill, it changes the dynamic of like social events or being a mom or panic attacks or
yeah,
whatever. Because I know when I feel a panic attack coming on, if I can catch it and kind of walk through, like, okay, where is this coming from? And where is this going? I can kind of like derail it.
yep.
But if I don't give myself a few minutes to like
Catch
try
myself.
to unravel it first, it's going to own me. I mean,
Yep.
it's going to own me for sure. Um, so it's tricky trying to do those things. But just talking about that reminded me of this quote from an author that I really like. So I'll end with that in a minute.
Yeah.
But talking about like just living your life, like
Yeah.
it doesn't really have anything to do with anxiety. It's just a good reminder that like yours, like there's hope. It's not like with anxiety, we sometimes like we do want to stay in bed or we do want to isolate or we do want to like not face the hard time. And I feel like we're doing ourselves a disservice
Yep.
by not living our lives because it's hard or it's scary. Um, so this is a quote by N.D. Wilson from his book called Death by Living. Life is meant to be spent. Um, and I have to like not surmise, but like skip some of it because he talks about some stuff in between these two pieces. So lay your life down. Your heartbeat cannot be hoarded. Your reservoir of breath is draining away. You have hands, blister them while you can. You have bones, make them strain. They can carry nothing in the grave. You have lungs, let them spill with laughter. I could be smiling or scowling, rejoicing in my life, in this race, in this story, or moaning and complaining about my troubles. I can be giving my fingers, my back, my mind, my words, my breath to my wife, and my children, my neighbors, or I can grasp after the vapor and the vanity for myself, dragging my feet afraid to die and therefore afraid to live. And like Adam, I will still die in the end. And it's like this weird, morbid reminder that, like, the end is going to come regardless of if you live your life or not.
Yeah.
And so,
To me, it does work with anxiety too, though, because it's that reminder, it's that hope of like,
yeah,
get back up, come on,
yeah.
strain forward.
Well, and your life isn't supposed to be bubble wrapped.
No.
Like, your body is supposed to go into the grave spent, tired, and empty of life.
Yep.
Not like full of life and pristine hands that don't have any calluses or any of that. It's like your body is supposed to be empty when you leave this earth, not full of whatever the heck it's full of when you don't live your life.
That's the fullest. Like, pour yourself out.
Yeah, and so I think that's what.
I think. Oh gosh, I'm going churchy again.
No.
But when you pour yourself out, like, you can't be anxious about, like, because you're not thinking of you.
Nope.
Like, I did like YWAM Youth with the Mission. And the verse that the school leaders, actually, it may have been my best friend from Wyoming. That's how we met. She was my leader. It may have been her that gave me, I think it was like 1 Peter 5:7, or it's casting all your cares upon him, cares for you. And like, yeah, like when we pour ourselves out, when we are focused on spending our life to the fullest, like, we don't have time to be anxious. We don't have time to dwell on those thoughts for a long period of time. Not that they don't come, not that like things are perfect just because we have a churchy answer or there's a
scripture. It's like, when I think about it, it's like, so church could naturally make me very anxious because of the area I live in. There's a lot of affluent families, and I don't feel like I fit in with them because it's just not really my, like, it's just not who I am. And so, but when I get to go and I walk into church and it's like, I get to serve my church family, it puts us all on this level playing field. And I'll have women who are like well outside of my like league, and I'm going to put that in hard quotes because I have come to understand that no one is outside of my league.
Right. Not actually how the world works.
Yeah, it really, we're all, and especially in the church, it's like we're all one body.
Yep.
And so my value isn't any more important than your value. It's just we serve differently. And so it's been this really weird thing where it's like, when I go in and I know I get to serve my church family, it's not this fearful, like, oh no, I hope they like me. It's like, oh man, I hope I really helped them. And not like, I hope I helped them, but I hope that I was able to connect them, or I was able to, you know, and even if they don't remember, I hope that the connection that they made in that conversation that I introduced them to helps them. And so it completely removes me from the equation. And it's like, I come home and I'm like on cloud 9. And so when I go into events with like our co-ops and stuff, I kind of try and like take that like serving, like, it's like, I'm not here to be served. Like, I mean, sometimes it's nice, but really ultimately I've found that I love like connecting people. And so when I use that gift, it's like I put all my energy into that. And so I remove myself from the equation, and it's like, oh, that was a fun event.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's true. Like, when we pour ourselves out.
Yeah. It's very rewarding. So yeah, I think that's I honestly am not sure if I answered any of the questions because I've been really focused on how loud. I'm just praying that
I think it's been
so loud.
I think it's been a good, like, it's been all tied together. It worked.
Yeah. Well, and mine is generalized. So it's not like you had one thing. Like, I had postpartum depression really bad. and I
Yeah.
had postpartum anxiety really bad, and I have fear of man, and so it's like there's not one thing that
Yeah.
I can look to and say that's the day it started, and this is how I overcame it. It's like I just have it,
Yep.
and it's kind of always buzzing is a better word, like in the background, kind of like your
Yep.
headphones. Like it's just that I still work, but
Yep.
there's like this zzz.
Yep.
So it's a very weird sensation, but
Okay. I
it's a
think
good
you described it well, and
yeah.
I think a lot of our society probably has elements of that, and
Yeah.
the hope that when we pour ourselves out, or we serve, or
Yeah.
we give ourselves, that we get to continue growing. And we've normalized sounds. You have your sounds. I think my pumpkin, as we were talking about earlier,
Oh, your
is
pumpkin has
turning.
arrived.
Yes. And he may want some snuggles to go to bed.
Well, y'all have a wonderful night. I'm going to hit stop recording.
All right.
Stop recording.